Now, an urgent review has been launched into the death of a man in hospital in Bridgend who had been kept waiting outside in an ambulance for more than 4 hours. The case comes as a coroner in North Wales said a man who lay dying at home as his wife desperately called for an ambulance might have survived if it had come more quickly. But the inquest heard many of the crews on duty had been queuing outside hospitals for 4 hours. Fred Pring's widow is now taking legal action against the Welsh Ambulance Service, as our Home Affairs correspondent Andy Davies reports.
In Ruthin this morning came a coroner's verdict on why it took so long for an ambulance to reach a woman who dialed 999 repeatedly and then watched her husband die in front of her without a paramedic in sight. Crews delayed at hospitals, crews on rest breaks, meant Joyce Pring's husband Fred was left for 48 minutes without an ambulance, in extreme pain, dying of heart failure. It is probable, concluded the coroner today, that if an ambulance had arrived promptly after the first call, he would have lived long enough to be transported to hospital, where further medical treatment would have optimised the prospects of his survival.
It is a lasting sadness that it was only after he had died that he was elevated to the highest response category. I also feel let down that I was led to believe that help was on its way when it so obviously wasn't.
It was early one morning in March last year when Joyce Pring called 999, her husband having woken with a severe chest pain. She called again and again. In one recording, he can be heard groaning heavily with each breath in the background. Help was being organised, she was told, but it wasn't. There were no ambulances to send. Of the 15 crews on duty in the area that night, at least 12, it now appears, were unavailable, either due to rest breaks they had to take or to hold-ups at hospitals such as this one in Wrexham. When Joyce Pring dialed 999 for a second time in desperation, there were 5 ambulances parked up outside the hospital here. Not one of them could respond because they were all waiting for the hospital to admit the patients they were trying to bring in. Now that's a process which should normally take no more than 15 minutes. One crew had been here waiting for more than 5 hours. A&E gridlocked and paramedics effectively redundant. Fred Pring had been waiting around 40 minutes for an ambulance when he died. The system was facing unparalleled pressure, said the Welsh Ambulance Service and Local Health Board in a joint statement today, but claimed improvements had been made.
It's with deep regret that we didn't have an ambulance available for her husband in a timely way. And we're working together with the Health Board and Welsh Ambulance Service to ensure that our busy emergency departments and our busy ambulance services are available to those patients who need them most urgently. Now, we have issued a statement and I've got to get back to work, so if you'll excuse me, I need to return to it.
Would you concede it was an appalling failure on behalf of the ambulance service? In 1 month alone last year in Wales, it was estimated 5,000 ambulance hours were lost due to crews being delayed at hospitals trying to offload patients.
It's not acceptable, and it's certainly government policy that it isn't acceptable. We expect patients to be handed over in a timely fashion, and there are many hospitals in Wales where that is exactly what happens day in and day out. The difficulties come when there are sudden spikes in demand.
And tonight comes news of another spike in demand at another Welsh hospital, this time the Princess of Wales Hospital in Bridgend. It's been revealed that just 4 days ago, a patient died in the emergency department after having had to wait more than 4 hours in an ambulance before being admitted there. The police are reportedly helping the coroner investigate. The local health board is conducting an urgent review. And so the challenge for the Welsh Government seemingly on this issue remains significant. Andy Davies, Channel 4 News, Ruthin.